So, my name is Robin. Welcome to the Visible Felt Dad. This is a first live broadcast, live workshop. I had something very different in mind, I'll be honest, when we put this together. An idea of a place that we'd be in, a venue that we'd be in. I'm just checking technology. It's like, you know, when you set up to do one thing and then reality hits, life hits, and then you find yourself doing something completely different. But then that's exactly what this whole topic, this whole journey is about how to become a visible felt dad, especially when you're not physically present. That's the real heart of it. So, yeah, why would you be interested in this? Why would someone be interested in something called the visible felt dad? Well, firstly, because you're a dad. Like me, you have a child or children. My name is Robin. I have 4 kids between 8 and 15. I have a girl, 14, going on 30. No, I'm kidding. A wonderful girl, precious princess of mine who is growing up before my eyes, far quicker than any dad expects. I know it's a typical thing for a mom or a dad. Your children grow up quicker than you anticipate. And it's beautiful to see, and it's challenging at the same time. Not because she's challenging, but because of my journey. And then I have 3 boys. I have 3 feisty little guys who remind me of me. They remind me of me at their age. And I just look at my folks, at my parents, and with respect and honor, because they survived, and I did too. I'm still here and kicking. And my kids are fabulous, very, very special to me. But that's not the point. It's not about the kids. It's not about me. It's about how do I make sense of this journey, this space that I'm in as a parent and as a father, specifically as with the natural consequences of the choices that I've made, and I'm not physically present with them. Like today, for example, I can do this workshop, I can do this live broadcast, but I don't get to have my kids with me today for various reasons, none of them bad, some of them good, but the fact is there's a practical reality. And wherever I go, I speak with men and women, but mostly guys, who have that same reality, who are navigating. How do I make sense of this life with things that roll out, and they're not according to the plan. They're not according to how I thought it should be or how I thought it would be. But I find myself here, and specifically I find myself with kids, but I'm not physically present with them. And that makes sense to me. I navigate this every single morning when I wake up, and it's easier to navigate when they are with me, when it's my weekend or my day or my opportunity to participate and show up and physically be present and be an involved parent, an involved, present, physically present dad. But every other day I'm not. That doesn't mean that they're not on my mind, that they're not on my heart, that they're not, present in my thoughts. I just physically can't reach out and touch them, or pick up a bag, or fill a cup with water or something to drink. It doesn't mean that they're not in my mind the whole time, but I'm just not physically there. And I guess it's my journey then to say, well, if I'm not physically there, are they forgetting about me? Or if I'm not physically in the room, and the fact of the matter is just I can't do what I would like to do. I can't show up in the way that I would prefer to be able to show up. How can I? How can I convince myself that I'm doing okay as dad? How can I convince, and I know convince is not the right word, but how can I demonstrate with honesty and authenticity, despite the gap in the physical presence? And when something's physically there, it's easy to believe, but when it's not there, it's difficult. And I need to find ways to remind my kids, to convince their heart, their soul, their physical body, that their earth suit, that I love them, that they're in safe hands, that their love is secure. I think at the heart of it, there's 2 issues that this whole project is about. And I'll be honest, the second issue, which is the first one, I say the second issue because the second issue is the kids. The second issue is that your children know that you love them, dude. That regardless of what, despite the natural consequences, despite the physical reality that you find yourself in, that your kids grow up with a sense of an intellectual understanding that they belong, that they have a father, they have a dad who loves them to the best of his ability, to the best of his means. And this is where the lines get blurred, because, hey, you and I probably have different cultures. We have a different lifestyle. We have different means, and by that I mean physically we can do different things with a different revenue, with a different income, you live in a different suburb. There's so much that we're different, yet the one thing that remains the same is that each one of my kids, the most important thing to me is that they know that they belong, that they have a place in my heart, they have a safe home, metaphorically, emotionally. They have a home with their father where they belong, no matter what happens. I might be a millionaire, I might be poor. It's irrelevant. The physical reality it's relevant in that it has a material impact on how we think, we feel, how we're doing in this world. But in the soul of a child, the most important thing is that they belong. And that's the real result of all this effort, of this conversation on the tactics and tools that I want to share. As I make sense of my journey and I engage with guys around the world making sense of theirs, that your child has a sense that they are in safe hands, in a safe heart. And I say that's the second thing, because to do that, to get that right, you need to be able to manage, or need to get on top of the first thing. And the first thing is you. The first thing is me. The first thing is that I have to get myself together again. I have to make sense of my own journey, and I have to be healthy. I have to be strong of mind, strong of soul, strong of spirit, and I include physically fit. I need to be in good shape so that I can show up. So that the second thing, the second point, the child, is what it's all about. But to do that, I need to keep the first thing first. And I just need to clear that out in this whole conversation. More than ever before, in the world that we live in today, doesn't matter what continent you're on, what country you're in, what city or town, what house you're in, more than ever before, we need fathers to show up, to be able to show up for their kids. And what's magic, what makes me excited, like right now I'm sitting in a studio. Look, I didn't plan it to be this way, but this is where I am right now. I'm in a studio. I'm in my little recording studio where I do a lot of my work for the Visible File Dad project, as well as my speaking and coaching and training work. But I'm talking onto a device. I'm talking onto a microphone in a room somewhere, but you're not here with me, but we can connect. And my point is that today, the technology is available today for us to do incredible things, for us to be able to make things, take actions, take steps, and make things happen that a couple of years ago was completely out of our reach. When I'm finished on this call, I'll be pushing out messages to my kids wherever they are in our city today. And I can do that because of this technology. And that means so can you. Like today, our kids need, more than ever before, a voice, a clear voice to remind them of who they are, their character, how valuable they are, how beautiful they are, and a voice to be able to speak into that life as they make sense of their journey in a rapidly changing world. I mean, the fact of the matter, my friend, I don't know how old you are. I'm 43 plus. The world that we live in today didn't exist when you and I were kids. And the opportunities, like this, a friend of mine keeps calling this, I'm looking into my cell phone as I do this live. My friend keeps calling this the oracle of Google. There's my 10-year-old child has direct access to more information and more insight and more, a wider view of life in the palm of his hand than you and I had in our entire schooling career and possibly the first 10, 15 years of our professional or worldly career. I mean, the life has completely changed. And in that volatile life, our children need a clear voice. Not a complicated one, not one with all the answers, but one that speaks to their heart and their mind, one that speaks to their soul and reminds them who they are and who they can be. and I'm not going to get into ethics here, and I'm not going to get into religion or philosophy. I'm not going to get into the complicated stuff. We can have those conversations one-on-one or offline. What I am saying is that our kids, our daughters and our sons, need a clear voice to remind them of who they are and what they're capable of, and what's beautiful about their heart, their mind, and their soul. And it has to come. It has to come from their parents, and specifically, I believe it comes from the dad. I think of my daughter, the first boyfriend she's going to have is pictured from me. And how do I show up for that? How do I speak to my daughter? How do I conduct myself to my daughter? And my boys, they're going to watch to see what it looks like to be a man. And my conundrum is that I've got to show these young guys what it looks like to be a man, to be a strong, courageous person, despite what's going on around them. And I have to find a way to do that even when I'm not physically there. The majority of their time right now, I'm not physically in the room. But that doesn't abdicate. That doesn't abdicate me from my responsibility. That doesn't mean that I, just because I'm not physically there, don't have a responsibility. And today I don't have the means to be able to do that, because we do. Because we do. Which makes it so freaking exciting. Very challenging. Keeps me up at night, wakes me up in the morning. Very challenging, but very, very exciting. I'm just going to drop down to my PC here to see if this live is actually broadcasting. Let's have a look here. So I was going to be in the Facebook group, the event, but we're broadcasting live on the page. Well, it's supposed to be. No, we'll get back to that. So if you're live, why don't you shout me a message here? Just give us something on the chat if you're here. If you're watching this on the replay, why don't you please like this live broadcast and then hashtag replay. Just type in the comments below hashtag replay. And then as you follow on with this conversation, feel free to drop in your messages. So either DM me, also just drop in the comments a question, and I'll catch up with them during the course of the next few days. And if you have some direct messages, I can answer them either directly under this video, or I'll shoot out a message to you directly in Facebook. Okay, cool. So what's this about? The Visible Felt Dad Project. You know, when we're successful, when I'm successful, I must just preface this journey that I'm going on. I'm not standing here, hey, my name's Robin, I'm this professional, what. I'm here with you, kind of like in the trenches, to say, hey, I'm on this journey and I'm making sense of this for myself. Every single week I'm doing my personal work. And as I move around in the marketplace, as I get around because of the work that I do and the promoting that I'm busy with, I meet real people like you and me. And as I reach out and connect with these real people, I hear this message is real. So like, hey, what are you doing, Robbins? Well, I do this professionally, in a speaking space or promoting the book or coaching. But then I also have this personal project. Some people have seen this personal project on the side. And it's fascinating to see. It's encouraging to see. Look, the fact of the matter is, in any given room, so at least a third, sometimes half the room are guys. And even so, the rest, if I could look at the room that I'm speaking to or the audience that I'm engaging with or training, half, like easy half, sometimes more than half, are either separated, divorced, or have grown up in a divorced or separated home. That's not the point. The point is there are people wherever I go struggling with this idea of, am I connected with my mom or my dad? And I can speak to the father's voice. Am I connected? Do I have a functional, living, meaningful, authentic, honest connection with my father? And quite often in the room, when I speak about this stuff, I'm speaking to a father who has this often unvoiced challenge, saying, do I have a functional relationship with my kids? Could it be better? Am I doing enough? Here's the fact. More often than not, let's take separation and divorce. Let me dive into one thing here. When you go through, and please understand, this is not a divorce project. I just happen to be divorced. This is how this whole narrative, this whole thing has become more and more real to me, is because I faced the reality of making sure that my connect with my kids is authentic and real, because I was forced to make more sense of it because of a separation to a divorce. But hey, I was a professional speaker and trainer before that. I was traveling across the continent. I was moving around this beautiful continent and country, sometimes 2 or 3 days at a time, traveling, flying 4 or 5 hours to another country, to another city, and spending 2 or 3 days. And I look back at those days, and I'm okay to admit I could have done better. I could have done better in my traveling time to connect more effectively, to have some of the habits that I have today, like reaching out, doing the very best I can, no matter how busy I am, no matter how deep I am in the hustle of promoting and selling my own work and my own products and services, that in the midst of it, that I reach out to my kids every day, whether it's a phone call or a message or a video, just even a text, that every day somehow my kids know that I'm thinking of them. I could have done better. I didn't. It wasn't a reality to me as much as it is today. Fact is, you're going to go through your stuff. The fact is that you're going to find yourself in a situation where things change. And I pray that it's not as big a change as a divorce or a death or something like that, the traumatic stuff, because then there's also the trauma that you have to process. But stick with the conversation today. In that moment of a divorce or a separation, the fact is you find yourself going, hang on, man, is there something broken with me? And I challenge you to find a guy who can go to work on Monday, having separated, divorced on the weekend, and show up at work clear and confident, absolutely on top of his game, and not carry it like a residue, not carry a wave or a cloud of emotion of am I okay? Have I stuffed up? And I challenge you to find a space where that doesn't trickle over or roll over into your work. Here's the reality I face, is that I've heard it said. Didn't really think about it. Didn't really, how can I say, I didn't really believe it at the time. But I've heard it said that when you go through a divorce or a separation, when you go through these kinds of traumatic experiences, that it takes time to process, and then it takes time to recover. And I'm like, hey, I got this. I'm a coach, I'm a trainer, I work in the head and heart space, I'll be okay. And you know what I found out? I found out, like, I'm just human, man. I'm like any other guy. And it took way longer than I expected. It took it took more out of my ability to focus and think on what I'm busy with. It took more out of my own momentum. It took massive amounts out of my confidence. And here I am. I don't know who's watching. I don't know how many people are going to hear this and how courageous I need to be. But the fact of the matter is, there's a season in my life where I lost my courage. I lost my confidence because of what I was processing. And the conversation is not about was it right or wrong, was I right or wrong. The conversation is like, I was going through stuff, man. And I thought I could handle it. I thought I was on top of it. I thought that I had all the skills, look, the tactics and tools. I can share the stuff. I can help other people. But the fact of the matter is, I had to make sense of it myself, and I still do. And just now, later on, I'll share some of the tactics and tools that I use almost every single day to make sense of that. The reality is that if you're listening to this broadcast, perhaps you're there. Perhaps you're in that space. Perhaps you're a dude who's starting to come to terms with and recognize, man, I've lost my step. I've lost the spring in my step. I've lost the pace, the momentum. I'm not as quick as I used to be, or I know that I can be. I'm not as clear in making decisions at work or at home. It's like there's this cloud that follows me around. And you need to hear two things. I want you to hear two things. Number one, it's okay. Dude, it's okay. That's like totally awesome, like real, man. It's scary. It's uncomfortable. It's unsettling. A lot of it has to do with the emotions attached to those things. So you're going to face the shame. You're going to face like, man, did I just do that? Did I make those choices? Or you're going to face a situation where you would have once done something, but now you're not allowed to or able to, or it's just not open to you, and you're going to sense that experience of shame, and you have to find a way to make sense of that shame. The other one is guilt. Man, you're going to find yourself stepping in again and again into a situation where you would have and you could have, but you feel that you can't. And then when that doesn't take place, you feel guilty. Or when you see something happening in your family, your new family, as it looks now, with natural consequences of the choices you've made, or you look into your kids' family and what you've left behind, and things take place, and you might find, I'm speaking for myself here, you might find, I would have liked to have been part of that, or I would have done it differently, or wow, they have to do that now, and there's a natural consequence component, and you're going to feel guilty. You're going to see other families, well, maybe let me speak for myself, you're going to see other families enjoying something in their life, and they haven't lost momentum. They haven't had to, or at least on the outside, the facade, it looks like they haven't lost momentum. It looks like they've got their stuff together. It looks like they've kept things going. They've got more stuff. They've got the house doesn't look like it's gone through as much chaos. They haven't had the natural consequences, the unwinding of the choices that you've had to make, and you feel guilty. You look at the people that you love the most, your kids, and when I say love as well, I mean like a brotherly love, like the family love. There's people in the family you may not be as connected to now because of the consequences of the choices you made, but there's still a respect and an honor. There's still a brotherly love towards them, and you feel like, man, you should be doing more. You should be doing better, or you should be able to show up, but you can't. Physically you can't, and then like just conceptually, like just respect and honor space, you can't show up. It's not yours to do that anymore, and there's a guilt there, and you're going to need support to process. You're going to need a system and a process to process that guilt, and you're going to need time to go through that guilt. What I'm wanting you to hear me say is that guilt is normal, that you're okay if you're experiencing that. If you find yourself that you've lost traction, you've lost momentum, this whole journey is taking longer than you thought it would, or if you haven't gone through a divorce or a separation, but you find yourself with your child or children, and there's this lack, this almost like an unspoken dysfunction or a disconnect between you and your kids, and you're struggling to make sense of it. Some of that disconnect is the residue of the guilt that you haven't yet processed. And that sensation, that emotion that you go through as you feel guilty, which then holds you, it's kind of like it traps you. It's like a jacket that you put on, but the sleeves don't have holes for your hands. So there's stuff you can't do as well as you would like to. There's places that you can't show up. There's things that you can't get done because of what you've put on for yourself. And I want you to know that those things are not necessary. So where we at? So shame and guilt, a lot of what we've gone through, a lot of what you're navigating is really just natural consequences. And the point is, how do we learn to process these things? How do we learn to first recognize and acknowledge that this is what's going on, that you're not living in a bubble. There's a bunch of reality. There's a bunch of real things going on. And if you want to show up for your kids, if you want to be a visibly felt dad, regardless of where you physically are, and that's the continuum I'm working with here. That doesn't matter where I am or what I'm busy with. There are ways, there are tactics and tools that I can use to show up, even if virtually, but I can show up more often in a more practical and functional way, to be conceptually and spiritually and emotionally present in the life of my child. So I can be visibly felt even when I'm not physically present. To do that, that's the primary work, but that's the second thing. To be able to do that, I need to figure my own stuff out. I, as a dad, need to figure out who I am, and I've got to get into my head and my heart, and I've got to just have the courage to acknowledge, for starters, I've got to have the courage to acknowledge where it is I'm coming from, what I've gone through, and then start processing with those things. So for sake of time, I see we've been going for a couple of minutes, almost half hour here, 25 minutes on this live. A reminder, if you've got questions, please shoot them in. Shoot them through to me. If I don't see them on this live, I'll answer them either directly or below this live broadcast. But if you're watching this live, why don't you just hit the like button right now? Or if you watch this live on a replay, so later on, if you catch it on the replay, please let me know that you're hearing it. And comment in the comments below, #replay. And then I'd love to hear some of your questions, just looking on the other device here. As I said, the technology, I don't know what is going on today, so we're just doing it as we can, and I'll figure out the tech for the next broadcast and for the next live and get it right. So where we at? Listen, the most important thing is, dude, like me, I'm not perfect, man. I'm not perfect. I don't have everything together. As much as in my professional space we create this brand, we create as a speaker, as a coach, as a trainer, as a professional consultant, as someone who's pretty darn good at what he does, I'm still not perfect. There are pockets, there are spaces in my world, in my personal world, in my professional world, in my business world, where I'm really good. I think I'm at the top of my game in that space as I am in my journey so far. Yet I'm also very human, just like you, man. I've got to make sense of my stuff. I've got to keep my stuff together, and you can use another S word for the word stuff. I've got to learn how to keep my stuff together, keep my mind, so that I can show up for my kids. It's easier when I'm physically present to reach out and give them a hug and just remind them that I'm there and remind them that they are well loved. But I've got to learn to find other ways when I'm not physically present, but I still want to be a visibly felt dad. I think the journey starts with acknowledgement. I really do. I think the first step that you need to do, my friend, is find the courage. And if you can do this by yourself and watch videos like this and hit our YouTube channel and just listen to some of the ideas that we share in the weekly messages and as those come out. But reach out to a friend as well. You can reach out to me in DM, and if I have the time, I'll definitely answer as best as I can. But reach out to someone that you know, someone who's been with you, who's been watching your journey. I recommend reaching out to a mentor, someone who's been on a journey like this, someone perhaps who's older and wiser, who can see through your stories, your invisible scripts, that don't serve you, that you've allowed yourself to believe and hold you back. But the key here is acknowledgement. Hey, this is where you are at. If you're an engineer, you'd hear the language of what's measured can be improved. And if you're not willing to measure it, if you're not willing to see it, then it's not going to change. It's not going to improve. But when you do, when you can say, okay, so this is where I'm at, and you can put a name to it. Hey, I feel happy, but I feel sad. I feel I'm doing the very best I can, but I've stuffed up. I've made mistakes. And for me, what's made a lot of sense to me is I speak of natural consequences. There are choices I made. My father taught me there's no such thing as a bad choice. There's the best choice you can make with the information that you had at the time. I don't live with regret either. I can't go back in time and undo what's been done. I can only be the most authentic version of myself. Pick up courage and live out today. But it starts with acknowledging. Say, okay, so that it is what it is. It is what it is. And it makes me think, go onto the YouTube channel and watch the video. There's one that says that your best days might not have happened yet. I know that's difficult for some people to process, to understand right now, but the truth of the matter is magic has still been made. Your story is still being written. Acknowledging where you are now is not acknowledging defeat. It's acknowledging reality so that you can see what it is that you're looking at, and you can start to make better choices about how you feel, about what you're thinking about as a dad. And then you can translate that into the rest of your world, in your family, your current family, your new family, more importantly, in the work that you do, so that you can generate the income, that you can live a significant life, and you can show up as dad for your children. I don't know what you need to do to process that acknowledgement. What I've done is a lot of journaling. I use a journal. I used to use paper. Now I do a lot of just about everything digitally. So I have a folder on my phone with a shortcut to my Google Docs my Google Drive, and in that I journal. I journal every day, just about every single day. I'll probably do a video sometime on what that looks like and how I use it. But essentially it's about processing. It's about taking the stuff that's in your mind, which is a voice of what's in your heart. Your mind, there's that still voice, that small voice in your soul that keeps speaking. It usually probably doesn't ever shut up. And you're asking me, Robin, but which voice? Well, it's the one that you're hearing speak to yourself as you hear me speak. And I'll say something and then you'll counter it. You'll counter-argue, or you'll or you agree or disagree with that unspoken voice in the back of your mind. That's the one. That's your small voice, your little voice, your quiet voice, your shadow self. And a lot of this journey is about making sense of that relationship with your shadow self. So in the journey, one of the most powerful tools I can recommend you consider is journaling. There's something magical about a pen and paper. Yes, there's a lot of people that still use pen and paper. It's not the only way. I don't often find myself in a situation where I have access to a pen and a paper. So I use my phone. It's like, just get that excuse out of the way. I have a shortcut to a folder and I can just write a journal every day wherever I am. And I can process this journey, the cognitive, the thinking stuff, as well as the feeling stuff, the emotion, as well as the physiology. How my body shifts and changes. Why some days I'm excited and some days, dude, I'm just scared. I'm just like fearful. And I learn more and more often to more quickly acknowledge, oh, life isn't bad. I just feel fearful right now. Why am I feeling that? And then the second thing, so acknowledge, and then let's say the third thing. So the first thing, acknowledge. Just acknowledge where you're at. Second tactical tool is journaling. How powerful journaling is. Just a sip of water here. Isn't this bottle cool? This is what I got from my kids for Father's Day. Shout out to my kids. The third thing, and when you're acknowledging and you're journaling, the third thing, what was I going to say? I forgot my thought now. Distracted by my kids. The next thing I do a lot is breathing. A lot of people don't like this whole thing about giving up control, but actually to recenter yourself, to learn how to practice the art of breath. If you read my book, Get Activated, there's a whole section on how to learn to breathe and breathe more effectively. If you want an idea, why don't you look for, it's called box breathing, a very simple tactical tool to learn how to get more effective control of your breath. But essentially, if you want to, when you're acknowledging the space that you're in and you're ready to journal, one of the things you're going to have to make sense of is the emotion attached to every thought. Every thought that you have has a lot of emotion attached to it. And one of the most practical, the physiologically practical way, how's that for English? Physiologically practical way for you to manage the emotion attached to your thought is to learn the physical practice of breath. And alongside that, or linked to that, is prayer and meditation, or consciousness or awareness, whichever language fits for you. But to spend more time in prayer, or community, connection, conversation with God. Meditation, learning to still your mind and get comfortable in your soul, your earth suit, this gift that you've been given. As you meditate, just allowing the light of God, the light of the universe, the life spark of creation, just to fill your soul and your mind and your heart more and more, as you just let go of all the angst, of the shame, of the guilt, of the pain, of the self-doubt, of all the stuff that you allow to seep up in your mind when you're not processing the stuff well. So acknowledge, journal, and then breath work. And in my journaling, a lot of what I can do as my breath work is functional, as I get better at my breathing and my meditating, what I can do is I can process the pains, I can process the emotions, I can process the feelings. And what I want you to hear me say is one of the most powerful things you're going to need to learn to do is go through those feelings. Go through how it feels when you don't feel confident, when you feel shameful. Go through how it feels when you feel guilty of the natural consequences. You're going to face these natural consequences because of the choices you made. But you don't need that jacket with no hand holes. You can actually cut the sleeves and get your hands through. And one of the ways you do that is through prayer and meditation and breath work and rolling. It's like waves of the emotions, waves of the feeling, going through the stuff so that you can have a conscious courage, a consciousness, a real-time awareness, courage to do the acknowledgement work, to say, you know what, I am where I am because of the choices I made. And that's okay. And now I have to make a different set of choices. I am a dad, I have kids, and I'm in this current reality, but I'm not physically present with my kids, and that's okay. And as I do that acknowledgement work, I can make sense of it, and then I can choose to show up. And I can choose, okay, how will I show up? In this moment right now, can I shoot out a message? Can I shoot a direct message, a DM to my kids? Look, dude, the language might not be familiar to you, but your kids know it. Your kids are probably on Instagram or Facebook or some social media platform that you've allowed. Or if not, they're engaged in some kind of social media or digital platform in their school. You're probably not even aware of it, but they know more of this language already than you might. And you can shoot out a DM to your kid, and you can WhatsApp or Viber or Skype or FaceTime or Duo, whatever technology or platform you guys are already using, your kids are probably aware of it, and you can get better at engaging with them on that same platform where other people are speaking into their world, but your voice is vacant. Show up in that space. As you get the courage from prayer and meditation, from breath work, to have the courage to acknowledge where you're at and get present with yourself, and start to work through that other stuff, you can start to have the courage to show up for your kids, to be visibly felt even when you're not physically present. And you can start to speak into the heart and mind of your child again. And I'll tell you, there's this beautiful loop that takes place. There's this beautiful circle that you start to experience. Because as you start to show up for your kids, you get to the sense of, hey, I'm okay. And I'm speaking to the men mostly here. Not only am I a dad, I'm a functional dad now. I'm getting connection with my kids, as little as it is, whatever. Every step counts. I'm also functioning better as a dude, as a guy, as a man. And as I do that, there's something that happens to your psychology, to your sense of confidence, to your sense of self-worth and self-value, your self-awareness. And as you do that, it just feeds your ability to show up as dad. You don't have to be perfect. I'm not perfect. I just have to be me. And the more often I can be me, as I can just show up, the more effectively I learn to show up. And as I show up in one aspect or one avenue of my life, I'm better empowered, better encouraged to show up in another aspect of my life. This is really exciting. Right, so where we at? Dude, what's the time here? We've been going on for 40 minutes. How cool is that? Show up. What's the starting point? Here's my call to action. Here's my plea for you, dude. If you've been listening so long and you're still on this call, the first thing to start is just that. Start. Start where you are. Start with the acknowledgement. Start just like, hey man, it is what it is, and it doesn't, what used to be isn't anymore. I have natural consequences to navigate, and it doesn't have to be that way, but I'm going to start writing my own future. I'm going to start co-creating. As in I collaborate with God and the universe, with everything around me. I'm not going to watch life happen to me. I'm not going to sit back in my shame and my guilt and my pain and my insecurities and wonder what's going to happen with my kids. I'm going to pick up whatever little courage I have and start to show up. First for myself. If you were with me on an aeroplane and we're about to take off, you'd be listening to the air hostess or host, and they'd be explaining a bunch of things. And one of the most important things they'll say is, in the event of an emergency, this oxygen mask thing will drop down. And the first thing to do is not to help someone next to you, even if it's your child. The first thing to do is to take that thing and put it on yourself. Put on your own mask so that you can breathe. With oxygen, you can think clearly. And with a clear thought, you can choose how you feel in the situation. And as you feel better about yourself, and you put down shame, and you put down guilt, and you put down the emotional consequences of the natural consequences of the choices you make. You can start to show up a better version of you, a more confident version of you, a stronger, a more clear version of you, and you can start to show up for your kids. And as you do that, I want to give you permission to do what you can. You don't have to do everything. Look, we don't all have the same access to technology and tools, or we don't. You start at the start, and then the second most important thing, my friend, is to do what you can. If you can only send an SMS, then send it. If you're comfortable with WhatsApp or Viber or FaceTime or whatever platform you're on, then use that and learn to use it well. Watch some of the videos. We'll be bringing out some tactics and tools and how to use these different platforms more effectively. I'm getting excited here. But the second step is start where you are and do what you can. If you have airtime, then make the phone call. I know your kids are probably, like I have different kids. I have 4 kids, and each one of them are different. And as they get older, the younger one behaves in one way, the olders behave in another way, and I have to learn to be comfortable that each child responds to me differently. One prefers a digital platform with text, the other prefers a video, the other prefers voice, and that's okay. And do what you can do. If you have to borrow some airtime, or if you have to find a place where you get to Wi-Fi so you can make calls if they have access to Wi-Fi, to WhatsApp or Viber or Skype or whatever platform, do it. It's worth it. If you can't do it every day, then you can't. That's okay, but do what you can. Start where you are and do what you can. Because if you don't, you just lose another day. You lose another day where you can win that second battle. You can win that second space of, you can show your kids that you do care. That even if you're not physically there, that you can be visibly felt no matter what. That you'll do what you can no matter what's going on. They don't see your entire world, but they feel it. And just a voice is enough. Just a connect, the slightest of connect. If you haven't had any connect for a while, you haven't been able to show up for a while, just those first steps, dude, is enough to make a change in the way that they think and feel about themselves and about the world around them. So show up. Do what you can and show up. It's worth it. It's not worth your kid growing up thinking that you didn't care, just because you didn't take the courage to put down your own shame, to put down your own guilt. It's not theirs to wear. It's not theirs to put on their shoulder. They don't have to deal with your stuff. Dude, you do. You and I have to deal with my stuff. But my story is my story. It's not my kids. And just because it's difficult for me to navigate, and I still, every week, I have to face up to my shame, face up to my guilt. I have to get over my own thinking and feeling so I can raise my game. But even then, it's not their story, it's mine. If I hold on to my story and I don't do my personal work, the cost is that I give it to them. They lose out. They lose out. My child will lose out with that connect. And it's not theirs to lose. I can show up. I can do whatever I can. If I take up the courage, if I make the steps that I can take steps forward, even if I'm not physically present, to be visibly felt. Visibly in a sense of they might not physically be able to touch me, but they can see my face on a video call like this one. They can hear my voice on a telephone call. They can see my text voice. They can get to know my character as I send texts, or we have these like funny joke things on our family WhatsApp group. Dude, show up. Just show up. Take the courage to show up. If you don't, the time is lost, and you don't have to lose this time. Don't wait until your child is 20 or 30 and you have to sit there and explain what was really going on. And you sit navigating through misunderstandings, layer upon layers of misunderstandings. And I get it. You intend well. You mean well. You want well for your child, but you hold back. And today I want you to hear that you don't have to. You don't have to, man. There are ways that you can do things. There are tactics you can use. There are tools that can serve you. But it starts with acknowledging where you are. And it starts at the start. Take the first step. Listen to this broadcast. Listen to the ideas in this video. Go through to the YouTube channel and listen to some of the ideas, the short 3 to 5, 6, 7 minutes of ideas that we share on how you can show up even if you're not physically there, that you can show up to be visibly felt in the heart and mind of your child. Because I know that you can. I don't think it's easy. Life isn't easy. Life is tough. But it is so worth it that you can live. Get that second challenge we were talking about. Get the relationship, a functional, authentic, meaningful relationship with your child, even if you're not physically there. But to do that, dude, you need to win the first one. That is you. You need to do your work. And I'm here to help you do that. I'm here to help you, to challenge you, to kick you in the butt, to remind you of good things about how you think, and to teach you how to feel about how you think and do things differently so that you can be a visibly felt dad. We're not perfect, and I don't pretend to be. But I am on a journey, and I look forward to hearing how you take steps on your journey, just one step at a time, one day at a time from where you are, and you can learn how to create, to cultivate and nurture a working, a functional, meaningful relationship with your child, so that young boy or girl grows up to be a beautiful woman and an incredible man and shapes the world around them. Well, we're at the top of, 48 minutes, so we're at the top of this session. I trust it's been insightful, informative. If there are any questions, please shout them down, put them in the comment block below. I'll do my very best to answer them, either in direct message if they're meaningful. We might even do some videos on each one of those here. Otherwise, at The Visible Felt Dad, reach out to me here on Facebook or on YouTube or on Twitter. Great to look forward to hearing of your thoughts. And remember that it starts at the start. So wherever you're at, that's where you are now. I encourage you, take the first step. Your kids are worth it. Your relationship with your children is worth it. And I want you to know, dude, that you can be a visibly felt dad, even if you're not physically present. Your life's about to change. My name's Robin. Thanks for listening, and we'll chat again soon. Have an awesome day.